to acknowledge first the families of the fallen and the wounded who are with us here this evening. And to you, the members of the Australian Defence community, if I might use the term the Australian Defence family, because I've known and met many of you over the years. And you are like a family in the way you support each other. Now, Your Excellency the Governor-General, to the Leader of the Opposition, the Defence Minister, the Minister for Veterans Affairs and the Shadow Minister, parliamentary colleagues, members of the Diplomatic Corps, friends, one and all. I'm honoured to be present today at the opening of Afghanistan, the Australian Story. I've been to a lot of exhibitions. This one hits you between the eyeballs. It's quite extraordinary. What you'll see when you'll see this are the voices of our men and women in uniform, those with whom they've worked and fought, the triumphs, the successes, the tragedies, in an extraordinary piece of Australian-style, knock you between the eyeballs cinema. So for those who have done this, I believe you have done something very good, genuinely good. I listened carefully to what the diggers were saying and the others who were featured in it. And above all, as Brendan had just said, the core message to folks like me is the absolute importance of telling the story. The absolute importance of telling the story. Not in a decade's time, not in 20 years' time, if you wait for official histories to be written, but to tell the story now. Because it is a story worth telling. It is really a story worth telling. As I've reflected on what was just said by those featuring in it, the purpose for which our men and women in uniform went and served, and some died, and many were wounded. And that purpose and its absolute and continuing importance. In a word, freedom is not easily had. Freedom is purchased very expensively. And the walls of this memorial are testimony to that. And freedom in foreign lands is important as well, even a land as distant as Afghanistan. It also hit me between the eyes with, frankly, a clear picture of how physically tough and confronting the fight has been. When folks like myself go to Afghanistan, I've been there a number of times, you take it to Tarin Kowt, you take it to the base, once or twice you go beyond the wire. What you see in the presentation in Chris Masters' work is action as it happened, bullets flying off, vehicles. The direct account of the suicide bomber detonating himself as a 12-year-old 3 metres away from a serving member of the Australian Armed Forces. And one soldier said, I don't think back home they quite know how confronting and tough and brutal the fight has been. This will answer that in such a big way. And I think the third thing comes through to what I've just seen, and I've just been talking to the Padre about this, who features in the film. Well done, Padre. It's the absolute importance of looking after our veterans when they come home, and the stories that are contained within the film of PTSD. And to our Veterans Affairs community and department, this represents a whole new challenge, I think the magnitude of which the country hasn't yet fully grasped. I'm taken overall by an extraordinary statement by the Governor of Uruzgan, a bloke who I met just a week or so ago, over there. And the governor said in the film, I quote him, "You Australians have come from your heaven-like country to come and walk in our dust. We don't intend for your sacrifice to have been in vain." It's an extraordinary statement, one of thanks, of gratitude. His Excellency the Afghan Ambassador is with us, from a people we have not known before, but for whom now we have a genuine sense of kindred spirit. And so to you one and all who haven't seen this production, spend some time. It's worth it. Takes us out of the day-to-day nonsense of our lives sometimes. Just puts you right up close and personal with people for whom decisions are very black and very white, and your lives really are on the line. In this place, in this extraordinary institution, my great predecessor, John Curtin, when he opened the War Memorial in 1941, he called this place the true sanctuary of Australian tradition. Curtin on this, as on so many things, saw through the glass to the future. I've never tired of coming to this place since I first came here as a 10-year-old in short pants on our first visit from Queensland. Whether you are religious or not, this has become for many Australians a holy place. It's in many respects a cathedral of our nation's memory. This exhibition preserves part of our national memory. Nearly 30,000 of our nation's finest who have served in Afghanistan are honoured as part of our national story. So too are the great actions, the feats of bravery, the humanitarian endeavour that underpin our work in this ancient land. As one of our poets has said of another land, in fact our own, from the deserts the prophets come. Above all, we come here to honour the 40 brave men who lost their lives in this theatre, whose names were movingly read to us all a short time ago. Together with the hundreds who were wounded and the thousands and tens of thousands who have served. This great monument has been built by a grateful nation to commemorate the sacrifice of all the husbands and wives, the mothers and fathers, the brothers and sisters and daughters and sons to whom Australia owes an unpayable debt. The Australian men and women who have served in Afghanistan have shouldered a great burden in a vast, hard land so far from our shores. The names of the fallen Afghanistan have been etched in the walls of this memorial, together with 100,000 other names. Families come from around the nation to honour them. Whether they have fallen at the Somme a century ago or fallen within the last year in and around Tarin Kop. Teresa's mum, now 87, has been a frequent visitor here over the years, quietly placing her little red poppy next to her brother's name, who disappeared in the skies over Burma 70 years ago. And as he had no grave, this place is his only memorial. And so it's become a memorial for all of us. For our Afghanistan veterans, we believe it will become a fitting place of personal and national reflection. Facts and figures are only part of the Afghan story. Achievements in the field, the raising of a full brigade of the Afghan National Army. Also, an important story of achievement all round, the building of bridges, schools, hospitals, roads, to offer hope to an often despairing people. But facts and figures don't capture the challenges and the triumphs, the heartache and the mateship of these modern day Anzacs, and the families who have nurtured them and who have loved and lost in the service of the nation. War is not about the cold arithmetic of numbers. It is about real live human beings and their stories of survival, courage, compassion, and yes, humour, but above all, beauty. And it's this exhibition that tells those stories with an extraordinary force. The exhibit's images, sights, textures, objects, sounds represent the faces, the forces, the friends, the families, and even the foes of our Afghan story. Of course, Afghanistan is not just an Australian story. It's an Allied story. It's an American story. It's a British story. It's a New Zealand story. It's a story of so many of our allies, but above all, is a story of Afghanistan itself and that wonderful country's future. And we all wish this new state, resting tentatively in the arms of a truly ancient nation, Godspeed for the future. As I said to the women and men serving in Uruzgan when I visited them a week or so ago, when the Australian flag is brought down for the last time in Uruzgan, each and every one of you will know that you have been part of history. And here, in this great national memorial, your story will be forever told.